I sat across from them in that stale little conference room, pretending like I did not already know something bad was coming. You could smell it? That weird corporate air, too much carpet cleaner, and fear. The lights hummed. The coffee maker dripped in the corner. One dying ficus was leaning like it wanted to quit, too. Brenda from HR sat with her big glasses, staring into a manila folder like she was about to tell me I had won a free cruise. "Alan," she said, her voice way too soft. "We have completed the compensation realignment review." I knew that phrase. I had seen it float through the company Slack channels like a ghost for weeks. But I did not expect what came next. "Your new compensation package will be $62,000 annually." I stared at her, then at Braden Ward, my new division head from Apex Holdings, who could not tell a network router from a coffee mug. He did not even look up from his tablet. He just scribbled in a notebook like this was routine. I did the math in my head. From 147,000 down to 62,000. That was a 58% pay cut, and they did not offer a single explanation. I could feel the heat rising in my neck, but I did not give them the satisfaction of raising my voice. I just nodded once, closed the folder, and said, "I will think it over." Like they were offering me a choice between chicken or beef for lunch, not cutting the floor out from under my entire life. Brenda smiled like I had just agreed to share a piece of birthday cake. She slid the paperwork across the table. "It is effective immediately," she said. "Effective immediately. Same hours. Same responsibilities, same deadlines, but less than half the money." I did not speak again. I did not curse, and I did not throw the chair like I wanted to. I just stood up, grabbed the folder, and walked out of that room. The second those glass doors shut behind me, my hands started shaking. I walked to my truck on autopilot, climbed in, and just sat there in the parking lot. No music, no phone calls, nothing. The steering wheel felt like ice under my palms. My mouth was dry as sandpaper. I kept thinking about the mortgage, the groceries, the child support, Ryan's baseball gear, Toby's upcoming school field trip, and Christmas. What was I supposed to tell my boys? I sat there for almost an hour, staring at my own dashboard like it might show me a path out of this mess. Then I started the engine. I drove straight home and parked in the driveway. I did not get out. I just sat there with the engine off, watching the porch light flicker. That job was supposed to be the one thing I could count on. I joined Oakwood Systems back in 2014. We were only 10 people jammed in a shared office space over in Spokane Valley. We had crappy carpet, bad coffee, and no air conditioning for half the year, but we were tight. We were hungry. Everyone pulled their own weight. It did not matter what your title was. Hell, we did not even use them. We just cared about results. You either got the job done or you did not. I thrived in that environment. During my first year, I worked every single holiday. I slept under my desk during a 3-day server crash to make sure our clients did not lose data. I missed Ryan's first school play because our deployment window shifted at the last minute. I told myself it was temporary. I told my wife the same thing, but it was not temporary. By 2019, I was managing 8 major enterprise clients. Over 60% of our service revenue came through my pipeline. I was the guy they called when the client was pissed, when a main server fried, or when a project scope ballooned overnight. I made things work. I always did. Then the divorce hit. Linda left me for some guy named Justin who taught Pilates and posted shirtless selfies on social media. She moved down to San Diego and said she needed to breathe. She left me with the house, the boys, the bills, and no idea how I was supposed to juggle it all. My job became my anchor. It was the only thing that made me feel like I was not falling apart. In 2021, when Apex Holdings bought us out, they hosted a big all-hands Zoom call. "This is about scale and opportunity," their CEO Gerald Thorne said, grinning like he had just cured the disease. What he did not mention was that he would walk away 6 months later with a $4.2 million payout and a consulting gig in Switzerland. We got a new logo. Then we got the management bloat. More meetings, more red tape. They made us build weekly slide decks instead of fixing real problems. The layoffs started slow. Admins first, then operations, then middle managers. No explanations, just calendar invites labeled status update. My team dropped from 6 people to just 2. The workload did not drop. I was fielding calls at 10 at night, apologizing to clients for system bugs I had not even been briefed on. I started doing back-end database fixes myself, half asleep at 2 a.m., because we did not have enough developer support left. The stress was an overload. I was snapping at my kids for leaving cereal boxes open. I was falling asleep at red lights on my way home. My hands would randomly shake when I typed. But loyalty is only useful to the people cashing in on it. When the cuts came, they did not come for Braden Ward or his little circle of yes-men. They came for the ones who had been grinding. They came for the ones who built the company before it was even worth buying, and I still did not see it coming. Not until Brenda handed me that joke of an offer. I realized they were done pretending I mattered to them. I got out of my truck, walked inside the house, and poured myself a drink. I did not even finish it. I just stood there at the kitchen sink, staring at my reflection in the microwave door, trying to swallow the panic. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Jeffrey Cole. I had not heard from him since he bailed on Oakwood Systems 6 months ago. He was a smart guy. He got out early. I picked up the phone. "Alan, you check LinkedIn lately?" Jeffrey asked. I let out a dry laugh. "Man, I have been too busy keeping my head above water to check social media." "Well, you should," he said. "I am with Kodiak Systems now." That caught my attention. Kodiak was the only real threat to Apex Holdings. They had a bigger budget, smarter leadership, less corporate fluff, and more execution. "Our execs keep asking about you," Jeffrey said. "They know what you have built at Oakwood. They want to talk." I did not answer right away. My heart was already pounding against my ribs, but I kept my voice steady. "They know I am still at Oakwood," I said. Jeffrey replied, "They know you are the only reason Oakwood has not bled clients since the acquisition." He was not blowing smoke, and we both knew it. "I will call you back," I said, and hung up the phone. I walked into my home office, shut the door, and pulled my original Oakwood Systems contract from the bottom desk drawer. I read every single line twice. I was looking for a way out. I sat at my desk with the old Oakwood Systems contract spread out under the desk lamp. I did not need a law degree to understand what was written there. Section 7B of the agreement was crystal clear. It was a bilateral termination clause. If the company unilaterally reduced my base compensation by more than 15%, the entire agreement, including any non-disclosure and non-compete clauses, was rendered null and void, and I could resign immediately without notice. They had handed me a 58% pay cut. They had literally broken their own contract. But it was not just about the contract. I remembered the proprietary client integration dashboard. Back in 2013, before I ever walked through the doors of Oakwood Systems, I had spent 9 months coding a custom database interface. It was a tool that bridged legacy mainframe databases with modern web-based client portals. When I joined Oakwood in 2014, I brought that software with me. I did not sell it to them. I signed a licensing agreement that granted Oakwood a limited, non-exclusive license to use my code to service their clients, but only as long as I was employed by the company at my agreed-upon salary. The license explicitly stated that if my compensation was reduced without my written consent, the software license would terminate immediately. Without that dashboard, Oakwood had no way of updating their 5 largest clients in real time. Their entire client reporting system would freeze. My phone buzzed again. It was Jeffrey Cole. I slid the contract into my folder and picked up. "Hey, Jeffrey," I said. I checked the contract. It is just like I remembered. No non-compete if they cut my pay, and the dashboard license dies immediately. Jeffrey whistled on the other end of the line. "That is huge, Alan. But you need to know what they are really doing. My sources at Apex Holdings told me they are planning to outsource the entire network engineering department to a vendor in South Asia. They have already signed the contract with the vendor. The transition is scheduled for 8 months from now." I frowned, holding the phone tight. If they are outsourcing the department, why not just lay us off? Because if they lay off the whole department at once, they have to comply with the Federal Warning Act, Jeffrey said. Under 29 U.S.C. 2101, they are required to give 60 days written notice for mass layoffs, and they would have to pay out severance packages. They do not want to do that. They are offering you and the others these massive salary cuts to force you to quit. It is constructive discharge, Alan. They are trying to trick you into leaving voluntarily so they do not have to pay a dime. The puzzle pieces clicked together. It was a classic corporate squeeze. Cut the pay, make the job unbearable, watch the senior staff walk away, and then transition the work offshore without triggering the Warren Act. They thought they were being clever. They thought a 56-year-old single dad would just take the hit and scramble for scraps because he had bills to pay. "Let us meet tomorrow morning," I said. Jeffrey did not hesitate. 8 a.m. at the Denny's on 5th. I will have Howard Strad with me. The next morning I pulled into the diner parking lot. The Spokane weather was gray and cold, but I felt a strange calm. I walked inside, the smell of bacon and cheap coffee hitting me. Jeffrey was sitting in a corner booth, and next to him was Howard Strad, the director of operations at Kodiak Systems. Howard was a tall man in his late 50s, wearing a simple flannel shirt and a dark watch. He did not look like the executives at Apex who wore tailored suits and spent their days talking about synergy. Howard looked like a guy who knew how to build things. "Alan," Howard said, sticking out a hand. "I have heard a lot about you. Good to finally meet you." I shook his hand and slid into the booth. Howard did not waste time with fake pleasantries. He got right to the point. "Jeffrey tells me you built the entire client portal network at Oakwood," Howard said. "He also tells me that you personally hold the license for the data integration code they use." "That is correct," I said. "I wrote it in 2013. It is my personal intellectual property. Oakwood only had a license to use it while I was employed there at my full salary. That license is now void." Howard leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "If we hire you, Apex is going to threaten a lawsuit. They will claim you are violating a non-compete. They will claim we are poaching. Are you ready for that?" I opened my folder and showed him the contract. Under Washington state law, a non-compete is void if the employee is terminated or constructively discharged due to a major compensation reduction. And their 58% pay cut qualifies as constructive discharge under any court. More importantly, they forged my signature on an updated IP assignment and non-compete agreement during the acquisition. I found their copy in the shared drive last week. The signature on that document is a bad digital copy of my signature from 2014. I have the original 2014 document in my desk, and it contains no such clauses. Under Washington law, that is forgery, which makes their updated agreement void ab initio. It is void from the beginning. Howard stared at the document for a moment, then a slow grin spread across his face. "Well, that changes things," he said. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folder, sliding it across the laminate table. "Here is our offer, Alan." I opened the folder. The terms were clear: $178. $1,000 base salary, a guaranteed 10% annual bonus, stock options, full health and dental insurance, and a hybrid schedule allowing me to work from home 3 days a week. It was $31,000 more than my original Oakwood salary, and almost triple what Braden Ward was trying to force me to accept. "We know your value, Alan," Howard said. "We know that the clients at Oakwood do not trust Apex. They trust you. If you come to Kodiak, we will give you the resources you need to build a real integration system." I closed the folder and looked at Howard. "I appreciate the offer," I said. "I will give you my final answer by 3 p.m. today." Howard nodded, standing up and sliding out of the booth. "Take your time, Alan, but I think you already know what the right choice is." I watched them walk out of the diner. I sat there for a few minutes, finishing my black coffee. My heart was pounding, but it was not from panic anymore. It was from anticipation. The trap was set, and Apex Holdings had walked right into it. I got up, paid the bill, and drove toward the Oakwood Systems office. It was time to have a chat with Braden Ward. At exactly noon, I walked back through the front doors of Oakwood Systems like I owned the place. My key badge still worked. I guess Braden Ward had not bothered to flag me in the security system yet. The receptionist gave me a tight, nervous smile as I passed. Word travels fast in a corporate office when someone gets squeezed. I did not stop to chat. I took the elevator straight to the 4th floor, marched down the hallway, and stepped into conference room B before anyone could ask what I was doing. Braden Ward was sitting at the head of the table. His hair was perfectly styled, and his luxury watch gleamed in the fluorescent lights. Beside him sat Clara, a junior HR representative who looked like she would rather be anywhere else in the world. She had a folder open in her lap and kept her eyes locked on the carpet. "Ah, Alan," Braden said, looking up from his tablet with a smug nod. "I was wondering when you would show up. We need your signed acceptance for the new compensation package." I pulled out a chair directly across from him and sat down. I did not lean back. I kept my hands flat on the table, calm and controlled. I have a couple of questions first, I said. Braden sighed, tapping his pen on his tablet. Alan, we have been over this. The compensation realignment is corporate policy. It is not a negotiation. I am not here to negotiate, I replied. I want to know who is taking point on the Grayson Global Integration rollout next month. Braden waved his hand dismissively. That is not your concern anymore. The transition team will handle it. Grayson Global was told I would manage their integration personally, I said. They signed their renewal based on that guarantee. Do you really think they are going to adapt to a generic transition team? They will do what they are told, Braden said, his voice sharpening. Now, are you signing the paperwork or not? I smiled at him. I am not accepting the pay cut, and I am resigning. Effective immediately. Braden let out a short, mocking laugh. He leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. You cannot just walk out, Alan. You have a key position here. Your contract requires a 30-day notice for resignation. If you walk out now, we will sue you for breach of contract and enforce the non-compete. You will not be able to work for a competitor within 100 miles of Spokane for the next 2 years. I reached into my folder and pulled out 2 documents. I slid the first one across the table. That is a copy of my original 2014 employment contract, I said. I suggest you look at Section 7B. If Oakwood Systems reduces my base salary by more than 15%, the notice requirement is waived. A 58% pay cut qualifies. The contract is terminated by your own breach. Braden did not even look at the paper. He just sneered. We updated those terms during the Apex Holdings acquisition. You signed the electronic transition agreement last year. That document includes an updated IP assignment and a strict non-compete. I slid the second document across the table. That is the electronic copy of the transition agreement you just mentioned, I said. It has my typed signature at the bottom. The only problem is I never saw that document until last week, and I certainly never signed it. The metadata on the PDF shows it was uploaded and digitally signed from Brenda's HR console on a Saturday afternoon when I was out of the state. Under Washington state law, forging a digital signature on an employment contract is a Class C felony. Clara's head shot up. She stared at the document, then at Braden, her face turning pale. She began flipping through her folder, her hands visibly shaking as she looked for the file. Braden's jaw tightened. He glared at me, his smugness evaporating. You are bluffing, he muttered. Call Brenda right now and ask her, I said. Tell her I have the audit logs from the HR portal showing the IP address that generated the digital signature. It traced back to her home office network. That forgery makes your transition agreement void ab initio. It is legally dead. It never existed. Braden opened his mouth to speak, but I did not let him. I leaned forward, looking him dead in the eyes. And here is the real problem you have, Braden. Since the updated transition agreement is void, my original 2014 contract is the only legal document that matters. And under that contract, my proprietary database integration dashboard is licensed to Oakwood Systems. That license automatically terminates if my compensation is reduced. As of 9 a.m. this morning, when you officially processed the salary cut in the payroll system, the license for my code was revoked. Braden frowned, trying to look unimpressed. So what? We will just write our own code. I laughed. You do not know a router from a coffee mug, Braden. It took me 9 months to write that dashboard, and it is the only bridge between your legacy systems and the client portals. If you keep using my database dashboard to service Grayson Global, Kentratech, and Lumicore without a license, you are committing federal copyright infringement on 17 U.S.C. 106. The statutory damages for willful infringement can go up to $150,000 per violation, and every single daily data sync counts as a separate violation. Clara looked like she was about to throw up. She whispered something to Braden, but he ignored her. He stood up, slamming his hands on the table. You think you are smart, Vance? You think you can walk out of here and take our clients? If a single client leaves us for Kodiak Systems, we will tie you up in court for the next 5 years. For what? I asked, standing up slowly. I did not download a single file. I did not copy a single database. All I am taking out of this building is my mind, my original contract, and my own software code. You cannot sue me for being smarter than you. I turned to Clara. You have my resignation form in that folder. Slide it over. Clara's hand shook as she slid the paper across the table. I signed it with my real signature, stood up, and buttoned my jacket. Braden was red-faced, his chest heaving. "You think this is some kind of power move, Vance?" he hissed. "No," I said, walking toward the glass door. "This is just the setup. The power move comes next." I pushed the door open and walked out of the room. I did not look back. I took the elevator down, walked out to my truck, and pulled out my phone. It was 12:15 p.m. I dialed Jeffrey Cole. "Jeffrey," I said, "it is done. Send the contract over to my email. I am joining Kodiak." I did not even make it to lunchtime the next day before my phone started lighting up like a Christmas tree. I had 11 missed calls in less than 2 hours. All of them were from Oakwood Systems numbers or from regional directors at Apex Holdings. First was one of the regional vice presidents wanting to clarify the nature of my sudden departure. Then came a call from their corporate legal team, which I ignored. Finally, Braden Ward called. He did not even leave a voicemail. He just let it ring and hung up after 2 rings. Coward. By mid-afternoon, my personal cell phone started lighting up with names I had known like family for the last 10 years. Executives from Grayson Global, Kentratech, and Lumicore. They were all confused and they were all extremely annoyed. First was Marcus Grayson, the chief operations officer at Grayson Global. "Alan," he said as soon as I picked up, "what the hell is going on over there? We were told you would be leading our legacy network migration next month. Now we are getting emails from some junior rep named Chelsea, who does not even know the difference between a virtual local area network and a public IP address. Why did we have to hear about your departure from an automated email and not from you?" I let him talk. I let him vent his frustration. Then I told him the truth, keeping my voice calm, clean, and completely professional. Oakwood Systems recently made some internal restructuring decisions that I could no longer stand behind, I said. I felt it was best to part ways. I am sorry they did not communicate this to you properly, but I am no longer with the company. There was a long silence on the line. I could hear him breathing, the sound of keyboard clicking in the background. Then he spoke, his tone shifting from anger to understanding. "We did not sign a contract with Apex Holdings, Alan," he said. "We signed with Oakwood because you were running the show. If they cannot even handle your transition, how are they going to handle our servers?" "I will let you know where I land, Marcus," I said. "We will talk soon." Within the next 3 hours, the exact same conversation happened with the IT directors at Kentratech and Lumicore. They were already experiencing database sync issues because my integration dashboard license had expired, and their support tickets were sitting unanswered in the queue. Apex Holdings was trying to run my system manually, and it was falling apart in real time. That evening, I started receiving text messages from my old team members at Oakwood. What was left of them, anyway. Stephen Shaw texted me a screenshot of an internal email Braden Ward had sent out. Braden was flailing, assigning my major enterprise accounts to junior technicians who barely understood how the software worked. He was telling clients that someone would circle back by the end of the week, when the clients had system-critical bugs that needed solutions yesterday. Stephen texted, "Braden tried to put Chelsea on the Lumicore database transition. She thinks database schema is a type of coffee." I laughed, typing out a quick response. "Check your personal email inbox in about an hour," I wrote. I had already spoken with Howard Stratt at Kodiak Systems. Kodiak was expanding, and they needed experienced network engineers who actually knew how to keep clients happy. By 7 p.m., formal job offers had been sent to Stephen Shaw and Brian Webb. Both of them had families, both of them had bills, and both of them had been hanging on at Oakwood by a thread, just like I had. They accepted the offers before the sun went down. Braden Ward's entire network operations department was now officially empty. The next morning, I received an email on my personal account from Brenda, the HR director. The subject line read, "Professional courtesy violation." It was a bold move, considering she would not even look me in the eye when she was helping Braden cut my salary. She wrote, "It has come to our attention that your sudden exit and subsequent actions may not have followed best practice professional norms. We expect a higher standard of conduct from someone in your former position. Please be advised that we are reviewing your file for potential violations of corporate policy and non-compete clauses." I did not even flinch. I just hit reply. I attached 3 documents to the email. The first was a PDF screenshot of Section 7B of my original 2014 contract, highlighting the clause that waived the notice period due to their compensation breach. The second was the digital forensic audit log, proving that her account had forged my digital signature on the transition agreement. The third document was a detailed timeline of their salary cuts across my department, along with a draft of a complaint to the Department of Labor. I wrote a short, simple response. Brenda, the 58% pay cut was a clear attempt at constructive discharge to avoid the 60-day notice requirement under the Federal Warning Act 29 U.S.C. 2101 for department-wide layoffs. Forging my signature on a contract is a Class C felony under Washington law. If Apex Holdings attempts to pursue any legal action against me, I will immediately file this Warning Act complaint and hand the forgery evidence over to the Spokane County Prosecutor's Office. Let me know if you would like to proceed. I copied the email to Apex Holdings' corporate legal department. I hit send. The response was immediate silence. I never heard another word from Brenda or the HR team. They had wanted me to leave quietly, expecting me to bow my head and accept whatever scraps they threw my way. Instead, I had walked out, taken their top talent, and left them with a system they could not run and a lawsuit they could not win. And now they were watching the whole thing burn. Day 3 at Kodiak Systems. I was finally starting to breathe normally again. I had my new key card, a brand new corporate laptop, and my Slack login. It was a real corporate setup, not some folding table in a printer room like Apex had given me during the acquisition. I sat at my new desk, looking out the window at the Spokane skyline. Then my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer it. I picked up. "Alan Vance," I said. "Alan, this is Gerald Thorne," a voice said. Just like that, the CEO of Apex Holdings was calling my personal cell phone directly. No secretary, no assistant, just the man himself. I leaned back in my chair. "Hello, Gerald," I said. "What can I do for you?" "I have been made aware of the client movement following your departure," he said, his voice tense but trying to sound reasonable. "There is significant concern around client retention and rumors of active poaching." I kept my voice flat. "I told the clients I was leaving, Gerald. They decided to follow me. That is not poaching. That is just business." He paused, clearing his throat. "Braden Ward says you took proprietary database code." "Let me stop you right there," I said. "Braden offered me a 58% pay cut in a stale room. He did not tell me about the outsourcing plans you have for next year, and he did not mention that your HR director forged my signature on a non-compete. You think that is how you run a business?" There was a long silence on the line. The CEO of a multi-million-dollar corporation was sitting on the phone, and he did not have a single word to say. Gerald Thorne cleared his throat, the sound static over the line. "What would it take to bring you back, Alan?" he asked. "We are prepared to make you a very competitive offer." I laughed. I could not help it. "You think this is about money, Gerald?" "Everything is about money, Alan," he said, his voice dropping. "No, it is not," I replied. "Not to me, it is not. This is about respect. That is something I gave your company for 10 years, and it is something I never got back." "We are willing to match Kodiak Systems' offer," Gerald said. "In fact, we can beat it. We can do 200,000 base, with a signing bonus to cover any transition costs." "Still no," I said. "Then, what do you want?" I leaned back in my chair, putting my boots up on the corner of my brand new desk, looking out at the city. "Here is what I want. Gerald, stop treating the people who are still working there like crap. Fire Braden Ward and tell Brenda to stop threatening to sue the employees who choose to walk away. Braden is a liability, and you know it. He is going to cost you more clients before the month is over." There was another silence, longer this time. I could hear the wind blowing outside my office window. Finally, Gerald spoke. "This phone call never happened," he said. "Fine by me," I replied and hung up the phone. I set the receiver down, cracked my knuckles, and opened my new email inbox. It was time to get to work. 6 months later, I had a corner office with a view of the Spokane River, a new title as Director of Client Integration at Kodiak Systems, and a team of 18 engineers reporting to me. I still showed up early, and I still worked hard when it mattered, but here the grind actually paid off. My boys were sleeping easier, and so was I. In the first 4 months alone, 5 of my old clients left Oakwood Systems. I did not have to pitch them, and I did not send a single sales email. They reached out to me. Alan, we are not getting answers over at Oakwood, they would say. Our databases are failing, and their support team does not know how to fix them. Can we move our entire contract over to Kodiak? Apex Holdings tried to scramble. They slashed their rates and offered ridiculous discount deals to keep the clients from walking, but it did not matter. It turns out that client relationships and technical trust beat corporate discounts every single time. Clara, the junior HR rep who had sat in that conference room with her eyes glued to the carpet, was moved to another division, something generic like internal employee development. Braden Ward resigned, which was just a polite corporate way of saying he was fired after he lost our 3 largest clients and tried to bluff his way through a technical demo he did not understand. As for Apex Holdings, they quietly shelved their offshoring plans. No public announcement was made, but Stephen Shaw heard from a couple of managers who were still there that the contracts with the overseas vendors had been terminated. They could not outsource the work because they did not have the database integration systems to connect the legacy databases, and they did not have any senior engineers left to build a new one. I even ran into Timothy Fletcher, my very first boss from the early Oakwood days, at an IT trade show over in Portland. He saw me from across the convention floor, cut through the crowd, and pulled me into a big hug like we were family. "They did you dirty, Alan," he said, shaking his head. "I was so angry when I heard about the salary cut. I am glad you landed on your feet." I smiled at him. "I did not land, Timothy," I said. "I jumped. Looking back, the extra money at Kodiak is great, and so is the freedom. But the real win was saying no. No to being devalued. No to accepting a 58% pay cut with a fake smile. No to giving another year of my life to corporate executives who thought I was disposable. Now, I make it to Ryan's soccer games on Tuesday afternoons. I help Toby with his math homework at the kitchen table. We eat dinner together as a family, sitting at a real table instead of eating fast food in the cab of my truck between late-night service calls. I sleep more than 4 hours a night. I still work hard, and that will never change because it is just who I am. But now I do it for people who know my value and respect my experience. I used to think that corporate loyalty was everything. It turns out that self-respect matters a hell of a lot more. And if you are sitting at your desk right now, feeling like your job is slowly gutting you, thinking you have no options left, hear this, you do. And sometimes all it takes is one phone call to burn the whole cage down.